Hey folks, Jim Wallace here, Executive Director of Gun Owners Action League. Just wanted to chat a bit about the growing portion of the Second Amendment community that really wants nothing to do with grassroots advocacy work. And we saw that when we were fighting Chapter 135 in the State House. Now, the support against it, or rather for our efforts against it, were really awesome. But there was still a lot of the 2A community. I'm just going to come out and call them keyboard commandos that just kept saying, stop with all this nonsense in the State House, demand our rights back, and take this to court. Well, the sad thing is you can't take things to court until they've already become law, and we've kind of covered that in the past. But, as far as litigation goes, it's very important. But we've only won a handful of Supreme Court cases going all the way back to Heller in 2008, So it was only, what do we have, 4 or 5 by the time we got to Bruin in 2002. Now, we've discussed this as well, that when the Bruin decision was announced, there was some serious premature celebration throughout the Second Amendment community because everybody thought the fight was over. Well, those of us who are familiar with how these things work knew that wasn't the case. And we always look back in history at Brown v. Board of Education in the 1950s. So that was about school segregation, and it was a huge win for the communities that were fighting against segregation. However, in the states that were pro-segregation, things actually got worse in the following years. I mean, as I understand history, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the state of Virginia actually shut down public education because they just simply would not comply with no segregation rules. So it's when you get a big decision like that, and I actually speak on this at universities, you got to be prepared for what's coming next. And we have already seen that states like California, Massachusetts, Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, they didn't just fold up their tents and go away. They more than doubled down. Just like under Brown v. Board of Education, it got worse for us here. Now, that's when you get into what we call cultural corrections, which takes an incredible amount of time and resources to bring those things about. Simply filing more litigation is not an easy fix, and we're finding that out here, as all of those that have called for court cases rather than advocacy are quickly learning, I hope they're learning, that just filing a court case is not necessarily an easy fix. As a matter of fact, it's not an easy fix. You can spend an awful lot of money, and we already have at goal. We filed our first lawsuit against Chapter 135 August 1st, almost a week or so after the governor signed it into law. And we spent a considerable amount of money putting that case together. It was against the training and the licensing. And then they decided to suspend that part of the law, which made that case moot. We had already spent money preparing a case against the long gun testing and roster, because that would have wiped retailers out and also pretty much taken anything but a few handguns off the shelves for sale to the average citizen. So, but then again, we were just about to file that case, and they suspended that part of the law. So, you see how much money and resources you can spend to not even really have a day in court. Now, as far as the assault weapon stuff goes, in 2018, goal with the financial help of the National Rifle Association, and they covered most of it, we challenged Attorney General Maura Healey's unilateral change of the Massachusetts so-called assault weapons law, where she basically redefined a single word and set aside 18 years of what we all considered to be settled law, even though we warned people it probably wasn't. So, gosh, I don't know how long we spent in court, 2 years, lost at every federal level, And we had some of the best attorneys in the country. Matter of fact, the attorneys we were using were on the ground floor of the Bruen case. So it's not like we were using somebody that didn't have experience. So we got it all the way up to the Supreme Court, only to have them not hear it. They just weren't interested. And unfortunately, that's their prerogative. The United States Supreme Court, everybody calls it SCOTUS, which is actually the Supreme Court of the United States, but they can decide what cases they want to hear and what cases they just want to let go. And from what I understand, the stats are somewhere up around 80% that get there don't even get hurt. And we could look around the country, and one of the reasons we additionally did not launch an assault weapons challenge on Chapter 135 was because there were several cases already in the chain way up there. But even look at those. You look at, everybody talks about the Snope v. Brown out of Maryland. That's been in place since December 1st, right, of 2020. The New Jersey case, Cheeseman, that's been in place since June 30th, 2022. And even California, Miller v. Bonta, has been in place since August 15th, 2019. Not quite more than 5 years, almost 5 years. And so far, the court is not being nice as far as handling them. So I'm not saying we're not going to challenge it. We're actually kind of working on some ideas because ours is different because of the new definition of assault-style firearms. Boy, we're getting really fancy, huh? So SCOTUS just hasn't done anything with this stuff yet. Now, here's the problem with Bruen, amongst other things, is that the Supreme Court of the United States gave us an historic decision. I myself had never seen such a broad decision on a subject matter. Usually, SCOTUS is very finite as to what they decide, what they take. And this one was probably the broadest one I've ever seen. However, we are now, more than a few years later, and SCOTUS has refused to defend it. And that only energizes states like Massachusetts and California when they tell the world that, see, we are compliant with Bruen, even though the court won't even defend their own decision, which is severely harming us, those of us behind enemy lines. The rest of the country moves merrily along, but we are left here to fight just like our other states that we've mentioned. So, the lessons here that have to be learned from all of those keyboard commandos who think litigation is the easy fix. And by the way, wins are very rare. I kind of alluded to that. But if you look around the country, you might see some district court wins and everybody celebrates and goes, see, just go to court. Well, if you look at Illinois, let's take them for example. My friend Rich Pearson runs that association. They've been playing whack-a-mole with Chicago in the state of Illinois for more years than I want to remember, because every time they win at a local level, whether it's a federal district court or a state court, then the state or the city changes the law just enough to comply, and then they're off to court again. So, it may look like they're winning a lot, and technically they're wins, but do you see a lot of change? I mean, real change? And the answer is no. So we have to really rely on the fact that, litigation is important, but you have to make sure you have the power behind your movement to make sure you never have to get to court. And that's what we're missing here. Grassroots advocacy is vitally important. I know a lot of people, Massachusetts lost cause. Why do you even bother? You can't imagine how much, and I know there's a lot of people, Goal can't do anything, Goal. You couldn't stop this. Well, Goal is only as strong as our members. We just can't walk in the State House and say, do this and do that with the limited amount of members we have. But it's vitally important because we used to be able to stop so much. For 25 years I've been here, You can't believe how much stuff we have stopped. Now, have we gotten a lot of great things done? No, because we don't have the numbers. I mean, we've done some good stuff. We've got some stuff fixed. But, imagine if we had 100,000, 200,000 members instead of 21,000. That's where your strength comes in. And you have to have that strength to make sure that you stop stuff so that you don't have to go to court and spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in years trying to get something fixed. And meanwhile, you got to live with it. So, Goal's going to continue to pursue litigation against the Massachusetts laws. And we'll use credible and reliable legal counsel. One of the things that scares me is people that get impatient and just file things on their own accord and even represent themselves, which is, that's so scary in the litigation world, because you're going to end up with bad decisions, and that means the wall for us to get over, the hurdles for us to get over are even bigger, because now you have court decisions in your way that are not very friendly. So I guess what I'm asking is people to re-energize this year. The legislature's coming back in session. Don't let your voice be drowned out. Don't go silent. Again, everybody thinks Massachusetts is a lost cause. It's only a lost cause if we let it be a lost cause. So, make sure you understand who your legislators are this year. They just started up again for a new session, 2-year session. You should know them by first name, your senator and your local representative. And make sure they know you're still there and that you're pissed. And this should have never happened. Now, we got legislation being filed. I think it's already been filed. Our public policy guy, Mike Harris, is taking the lead on that. And we'll be up in the State House when we have to be. And hopefully, you will too. And hopefully you'll be on the ground in your local districts. And make sure that people understand how pissed you are that the state of Massachusetts passed a law they didn't even read. I mean, literally released that language on a Wednesday night at, 8 o'clock and voted on it the next day. So it's very, very important. Keep up your local pressure. Keep up your voice. Don't go silent into that night, as they say. And, folks, if we can do that, I think we'll be much better off in the future. Thanks for listening.